So people often ask me, how can I participate in a difficult conversation when my feelings completely overwhelm me? If you have ever felt like you really need to have a difficult conversation, but just the thought of it feels like an avalanche of feelings, then this is for you, right? Maybe it's talking to a parent about end of life issues, or maybe it's talking to your kid about your decision to get divorced, or maybe talking to a close friend about an addiction problem. Today, I'm going to offer 6 tips on how to handle a difficult conversation when you are drowning in your own feelings. Okay, so first is a piece of preparation, which is you want to begin by taking some time to write down all of the feelings that come up for you when you even think about having this conversation. I know that's like a really tall task because even that exercise can feel exhausting. And it's important because by writing those feelings out, it then gives you this chance to actually feel them, to have the feelings. And I think one of the reasons why we push difficult conversations away so much is that we don't want to deal with the feelings. And in a situation like this, right, where we know the feelings are going to come up, that they are overwhelming, we have to actually allow ourselves to have them. And so taking the time to really write the feelings, experience them, get the tissues, get what you need, can be really cathartic. Second is also related to preparation. And it is taking some time to write down for yourself the reasons why it is important to have this really hard conversation, even though there are a lot of feelings. So it might be 3 reasons or 4 reasons or 5 reasons, right? So if, for example, you're going to talk with, let's say, your significant others about their eating habits, right? The reason why it's important is because you care about them, because you want to make sure that they are healthy for many years, that you want to make sure that you don't lose opportunities to enjoy travel and fun times and all the things that happen when you are healthy. So writing those reasons down is really important. And the reason why we want to have both a list of the hard feelings and a list of the important reasons to have the conversation is that these two are going to come together for our opening. And so this is the third tip. You want to open the difficult conversation by combining the two sides. So what does that look like? Well, it's basically saying something like this. I was hoping we could have a really hard conversation. And it's a hard conversation for me because it brings up a lot of really challenging feelings. Feelings of anxiety and fear and worry and concern that I'll be hurtful or say the wrong thing. At the same time, I also decided I need to have this conversation because I know that if I don't, I will regret it and there'll be something lost. Now, that's maybe a little bit of a too long opening, but bringing up a conversation where you actually share some of the feelings and why it's important, so you're sharing your ambivalence, is a really nice entry in. My experience as a coach has been that oftentimes people avoid difficult conversations because they are over-focusing on the feelings and they're over-focusing on the cost of having the conversation, and they're undervaluing the upsides and the reasons for having it. And so they keep it all bottled up, and they still know they have to have the conversation, but they never actually have the conversation. Okay, so we've done some pre-work. We have an opening. Now the fourth piece, which is actually scheduling an appropriate time and an appropriate place for the conversation. This may sound really basic, but I gotta tell you, people mess this piece up all the time. Not because they're like dumb or inconsiderate, but they're so anxious about having the conversation. And they keep delaying and delaying. And then they say something like, I'm going to make sure I bring it up by the end of the week. But then it's like Friday afternoon. Their boss is like walking to the car in the garage. And they run up and say, oh, hey, before you go. And they drop this incredibly hard topic. So you want to avoid these moments, right? You don't want to break up with somebody at the end of the date. Or if you need to come out to a family member, doing it on the Sunday afternoon after Thanksgiving as you're driving to the airport probably isn't the right moment. I have some friends who are therapists, and they talk about what they call the doorknob moment. I guess if you're a therapist, you know what this is. I had never heard of it, but it's kind of like someone in a therapy session who spends like the first 50 minutes talking about what they did last week and the weather and what they had for dinner on Sunday. And then as they're leaving, as they're going to turn the doorknob and walk out the door, they say something like, oh yeah, by the way, my mother died this week. So you want to avoid that. You want to schedule a conversation that is appropriate for the subject you're going to be talking about, that honors your effort, your energy and planning, and also honors the other person's. That this is something that's really serious, and I want to make sure we have the right venue and the right time to do this. Fifth, once you're in the conversation, being very explicit that you imagine that the conversation will bring up strong emotions both for yourself and for them, and saying it's okay for both of us to share these feelings. To say, I probably will get emotional here. You may or may not, but if you do, that's okay. So normalizing the existence of feelings around difficult conversation actually makes it easier to deal with them when they come up. But as part of this, you might also say, there's a chance that this conversation may overwhelm me and may overwhelm you. And so why don't we just agree that if that's the case, we'll take a break and we'll commit to coming back and continuing. I think part of the reason for normalizing is that if that happens and you need to take a break or they need to take a break, there are two advantages. One, it doesn't look like failure. You've actually predicted it. And secondly, there's an embedded commitment that you will come back and complete the conversation. Sixth is considering a moot before doing the conversation. So what do I mean by a moot? I basically mean considering a trial run. So finding a friend or a coach or a mentor in some way where you can really practice a conversation. And I want to be clear what I mean by this. I don't mean somebody that you're just going to talk about the conversation with, although I think that's really valuable. I actually mean someone that you're going to literally do the conversation with. So for many years, I was the faculty advisor to the LGBTQ plus group at Harvard Law School. And because I also teach difficult conversations, I ended up in really many, many situations where a student came into me who was struggling with their sexuality and wanting to come out to maybe a parent or a family member. And part of the way in which I think I was often able to be a real help to those students was actually mooting the conversation with their parent or with their grandmother or with their sister. That has a number of benefits, right? First, it will give you a chance to actually have a sense of the actual feelings that come up. Secondly, it will give you a chance to adjust to how the other person might respond to what you're delivering. And third, it'll also give you some different ways that you can phrase what you want to say, some different choices of words. And so even though a moot might feel tiring or exhausting or stressful, I got to tell you, I have found it in my own life to be very useful. And for those for whom I've done this, they have reported to me that it was really the difference between success and failure in those difficult conversations. Being overwhelmed with emotions in a difficult conversations is really, really normal. But there are some things that you can do to increase your ability to move forward with that conversation in a productive way. First, in advance, Write down all the feelings that come up for you when you even think about having the conversation. Secondly, write down the reasons why it would be important to have the conversation despite these strong emotions. Third, when you open the conversation, begin by combining these two sides, by sharing some of the feelings that come up and also how important it is for you to have the conversation. Fourth, choose an appropriate time and place for the conversation itself. Fifth, set as an expectation that there will be a lot of emotions and create space for both yours and the other person's in the conversation. And lastly, find a coach, a friend, or a mentor to moot the conversation in advance. For more, watch this next video, which is how to control your emotions during a difficult conversation. In addition, it would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to my channel, like this video, and so that you don't miss any new content from me, ring the bell and you'll always get notified when new videos appear here. Thanks for watching. Okay, you want to master your feelings in difficult conversations. Keep watching.